All right, welcome to Brennan Davis session, How to Teach Marketing Analytics Using a Simulation. Some housekeeping items we want to go over really quick. You can use the chat to ask questions or to make comments. We'll save those for the 10-minute Q&A session at the end. Try to keep it positive. Negative comments will be deleted. And you can use hashtag ProfCon20 to engage on Twitter. There will be a giveaway at the end for the person who engaged most. And the winner will get a $5 Starbucks gift card. All right, so you're going to hear from Dr. Brennan Davis today. He's Hood Professor of Marketing and Director of the Business Analytics Agency at Orfalea College of Business at Cal Poly. He is the author of Student Marketing Analytics Digital Textbook. He holds a PhD in marketing from the Paul Merage School of Business at University of California, Irvine, and an MBA from the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania. He teaches marketing analytics to students in the undergraduate and MS business analytics programs. Brennan also has experience as a marketing analytics professional for the automotive industry. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the time over to Brennan.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for that great introduction. It's great to be with you guys today. I just got introduced, so I don't have to actually go over much of this slide. I just want to emphasize that 8 years of experience in business management in the automotive and tech industries were really formative for me in terms of data analytics. I had the chance back in the mid-90s, before certainly the current age of internet-based data was around, to really get my hands on data that was going to be a part of the future. The automotive industry was one of the only places where we still had big data. So this is data that would come in on big reels of tape reels, and we would process data from the DMV, sales, from dealerships, demographics, Tiger files from the government, and we kind of mix it all together. And we were doing data science, data analytics for the first time. And so that's really where I got to love data and the analytics of data. From there, I have had the chance to write 2 different textbooks now. One is the marketing analytics textbook with Stuckent. And that one is now at over 80 universities. We're at Notre Dame, USC, Texas, Villanova, Babson, Penn State, just to name a few. And then most recently, I just launched a book that's on business analytics. And we've just launched that, and I'm excited to see how that's going to go too. So that's kind of my background. I helped design the simulation that Stuckent has put together that we're kind of discussing today. Mimic Analytics, and so I'm excited to share a little bit about that with you guys. So Mimic Analytics is a simulation, meaning that the students are going on and they are acting as if they're playing a role in a business, trying things out, rather than just reading text or listening to lectures. Just wanted to explain a little bit about the way that I understand the current state of student needs, just so you can understand my philosophy in both the textbooks that I write and also in the way that I've helped design Mimic Analytics. We're kind of in this new era now of analytics, and people have been trying to figure out, well, what is it for the last few years? And I'm just kind of in this quadrant in the upper right-hand side where you see that yellow star, where I'm thinking that we're focused more, instead of on traditional market research kinds of approaches with traditional statistics and very much of an academic focus, we're really looking to the marketplace and saying, how has the marketplace, admittedly standing on the giants of academics like us, how have they kind of taken things and applied them to the marketplace in a different way, oftentimes, than we've studied it in the past. And so instead of writing textbooks and designing simulations kind of based on traditional statistics and kind of an academic approach, we're really trying to take a look at kind kind of what's next and ways that the marketplace have advanced people have advanced our methods. And so just kind of stayed up front in terms of what we've put together to make it easy. The Mimic Analytics that we're going to talk today does bundle with both the Marketing Analytics textbook and the new Business Analytics textbook. And I'll explain a little bit about the difference between those two textbooks, but I just wanted to say kind of up front what those things are. We've had a lot of input from industry. And so I put this slide up here. You can kind of take a look at these testimonials, but really the point of this is that I went through a process. And so I kind of have a story to tell about how I have developed my courses. And so when I first came to Cal Poly back in 2014, I had no idea what I was going to put together in terms of an analytics course. They had hired me for the purpose of teaching analytics. I had certainly used big data, but a lot of that, I just wasn't sure what it would translate in terms of what students need to get jobs. And so I put together a task force of people from many different companies, some of which you see on the screen here, and developed relationship with key people and basically asked them, what do we need to do to prepare our students for not just jobs at Tesla, Google, or Oracle, but in general across the United States? What is it that you see in the future that students need to learn? And so that was a great help to me. I could not have done that. And so this page is meant to be not just a testimonials page, but also an acknowledgments page of the great help that I've gotten from many, many people to put this together. And I continue to meet with those people on an annual basis and learn about kind of the latest trends and try to bring that information into the redesign of all the products that I'm touching in our discussions today. I do want to say also that it's really, really important to me that you understand that I want your feedback from the community. I want the people who are considering using these products to give us input, and we'll certainly be wrestling with changes over the coming years based on that feedback. And so the community that we're kind of bringing this into now becomes kind of becomes the next key element to design. So analytics and the stages. Some of you may have seen parts of this out there before, discussing descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive analytics. I have added 2 bookends to those steps, data wrangling and storytelling. And so these stages become a conceptual framework to understanding how we're putting the materials together. And so when we think about a simulation, we even have to think about where does a simulation fit in terms of these things. And so for Mimic Analytics, what you're seeing on the screen, there are chapters that the book covers, the textbook covers, but I'm also explaining in this slide basically where things fit in terms of the Mimic Analytics exercises and rounds that we put together. So we're starting off with data wrangling, and that's just basically the question of how can we prepare data for analytics through transformation, structuring, and structured query language. Descriptive analytics is asking, just what's happened. So this is primarily focused on data mining. And then predictive analytics is the next step. And this is where we're asking what will happen in the future. And then on top of that, we can build in prescriptive analytics and storytelling. And so really the main focus of Mimic Analytics is where I feel like the need has been the greatest, and that is on data wrangling, on data mining, and in A/B testing. And let me show you a little bit about what the summary of those rounds are, and then we'll talk about how we came to that conclusion. So the summary of rounds are this. We start off with just a basic round of data transformation. This means the students are getting an Excel spreadsheet that has messy data. I mean, how many times have our students had completely perfect, clean data sets that they've been given? So this is going to actually give them something that's more realistic and more real world. Number two, advanced data transformation. This is basically saying you just learned a bunch of stuff about how to transform the data and clean the data. Now let's take it to the next level and allow you to make some bigger decisions. And again, I'll explain more about some of the options that students will have. But this is just meant to be an overview. Then we'll move on to that basic data integration round where we're actually saying, okay, now we have one source of data here, another source of data there. How can we actually bring those together to do some analyses? And then again, in the fourth round, doing that in a more advanced way, where we're actually allowing them to make more decisions about what data they purchase and whether or not they want that data to be cleaned and whether they're willing to pay for that data and the trade-offs that they can make between getting new data sets and paying for clean data sets, some very real world kinds of situations. And then cluster analysis. This is our data mining round where we're allowing them to explore the data to see what kind of natural groupings are there and make decisions based on that. And then the rest of the rounds, rounds 6 through 9, we have 4 A/B testing rounds. And I'm really excited about these rounds. These are rounds that allow the students to get into a company's digital assets and run experiments on those. And this is really cool because, you know, how else are they going to get this experience? It's very rare for a professor to get someone to say, sure, I'll let all your students run around on my website. So this is a great way to get them some experience. Even if you find someone out there who's willing to do that, it might be good to run them through a little practice before. So in putting together this simulation, we did, you know, of course, we're talking about analytics, and so let's use data, right, to put this together. And so we asked instructors what they wanted. This is just the results of that. You can see here that a lot of the things that we put in are related to the things that were needed. We did combine this data, however, with industry data. So took a look at what the industry said was good advice. So there's a good source out there called KD Nuggets. And this is basically at the time was the latest data. And so we said, okay, looking at the graph on the left, this is telling us it looks like there are a lot of popular approaches to doing data science. And so we've got Python, R, SQL, Excel. And so we decided to design both the textbooks and the simulation using any of those. Excel, actually, we focused on Excel, R, and Python using any of those three. And so, and honestly, you could use something like RapidMiner. It's agnostic to that method. So the students are taking the data, they're bringing it out into their tool or your tool of choice, and then they're running the transformation or the analyses on it, and then they're able to then kind of go forward in the round based on that. So that was important to us to design up front. The second chart you see on the right-hand side, so this basically is talking about the way that resources are misaligned. So basically this is companies saying, these are things where we have, we need people who can actually do these things in a more advanced ways. And so preparing data for analysis and then data visualization, charting and predictive models, all these things kind of made their way to the top. So kind of based on all of this data, we decided to present in Mimic Analytics the rounds that we mentioned in the previous ones, based on the fact that these were the ones that were the most difficult for us as instructors to offer to our students. So let's talk about, like, why might this be something that a professor really loves? First off, we really wanted the students to feel like this was a real world exercise. What do I mean by that? They are actually being placed in a company as an intern in the role of a marketing analytics intern, and they are given real problems that the company is trying to solve. And then we kind of walk them through the steps that they need to take in order to solve those real world problems. And it's exciting, and you get to actually see your boss talk, and you get to read kind of a script that describes, the fears that you might have as an intern coming into it, and some of your exciting ideas that you might have been presenting to the boss. And so the whole thing is really designed to be real world. And so we kind of have three pieces to most of the rounds. The first piece is, did you just do the task? And so these are graded. So for example, in the data integration round, you're given a data set, and you download that data set, and you might have some outliers and some missing data and some impossible data and all kinds of problems with this data set. And so the first graded part of that round is going to be upload that cleaned data set, and we'll actually check to make sure. And when I say we, I mean some artificial intelligence is going to grade that student's spreadsheet, and then let them know where they did well and where they didn't do well, and really give them some positive feedback, but also let them know where they might have missed it. So stage two then is asking questions. So it's basically trying to really help the student understand that they're not just cleaning data for the sake of a task. Let's actually understand why it's important. I'm going to ask some questions like, for example, what is the average number of clicks for a particular product, or how can we ascertain the revenues from a particular segment, or something along those lines. And so it really kind of puts in the students' minds that, hey, if I don't have a good, clean data set, I'm probably going to get the wrong answers to things that are important to the company. And then that last one really drills it in terms of why it's important to the company. And that is that we're allowing the students to have a budget. And so that budget really is going to be allocated or recommended by them to the boss in terms of the actual interpretation of the questions that were asked in that previous stage. And so we're taking the students from task to understanding to impact on the business through each round of those simulations, so that students can really understand the full story of the importance of things. So I've mentioned many of the things now here that you see in the bullet points. Yes, we're providing tens of thousands of dollars in simulated budget for the students to play with across all the rounds. It does build in a way that allows the students to not be penalized for previous mistakes. We kind of felt like that was important. So each round presents a fresh new budget that isn't negatively impacted by maybe not understanding things well in the previous round, so that they get a chance to continue to do well. But certainly their ranking with compared to other students, would be impacted by the sum of all those rounds. It utilizes unique randomized data sets. I know there's a few of you already out there kind of going like this, wondering, yeah, you're going to download a spreadsheet, and how fast is that going to get on the internet and be posted somewhere for students to just cheat off of? We thought about that, and there's not going to be cheating, because we're giving each student a unique randomized data set. And randomized meaning that we're just, randomly assigning to students different rows. They have the same number of rows. It's the same difficulty, the same kinds of problems, but the answers are going to be different for every student, and where they need to clean things is going to be different. So they can learn off of each other, and certainly, and what's kind of a good thing about what kinds of things to look for, but they're not going to just be able to email their friend an Excel spreadsheet and kind of upload that and be done. It is, unique to each person. And then we're allowing them to practice things like A/B testing. So again, like I mentioned earlier, things that are really hard to do, things that are hard for professors to offer to students in terms of a good experience with analytics. And then last, we have those auto grades. And I mentioned that before, and probably some of you like pricked right up on that. And I know it's important to me also as a professor, but this has just given me so much time, honestly, even so much time to focus on developing these assets that we're talking about today. As I'm more and more able to get that auto grading component in, I'm not the one who's looking at every line of the spreadsheet for 50 students in my class, trying to help them learn about what went wrong. This automation process is really freeing up my time to focus on the more, I think, the more important things, which are, how can we really broaden the experience for the students? Again, I kind of alluded to this earlier, but it does allow you to rank the students so that if you want to make this competitive and fun, I find that this is something students love. They love that kind of feeling of doing better than the next guy or the next girl, and so that rankings kind of make gamifies it a little bit. I will say, just as a little bit of a tip, what I do with my simulation stuff too is that I put a floor in. So I kind of make it so that as long as you're trying and as long as you're showing an effort to make this work, you're not going to get below a certain grade, and you could make that whatever grade you thought it should be. But I try to make this so that if you just kind of mess up it during a round, you're not just automatically getting a score that's going to tank your whole grade. It runs cluster analysis for that customer segmentation, and that's been really key for us to kind of illustrate data mining to the students. It uses, I mentioned this before, Excel, R, or Python, or honestly, really any other tool that you could think of to complete the assignments. It includes weekly briefings from a fictitious boss, which is nice because you feel that sense of kind of consistency and get that practice. And then it gives students access to big data, which I'm sure that many of you have discovered is not an easy thing to do. Companies are really nervous about giving us access to data. All right, here's just some quotes from students. These are some of my students right now. There've been, we haven't released it officially yet, so we're relying on my students to give us feedback. But they seem to really like it. They really enjoy the experience. They've been surprised at how much experience it has given them. And I haven't had a single complaint about the experience itself. So they love getting in there and trying things with data in a way that they haven't before. They recognize that it's really giving them something. All right, I've been talking a lot about what it is. Let's actually just take a look at some of the screens. This first one here is showing you what it looks like when you log in and start looking at the scenarios. I will say that even before this one, there's a video that just gives you a nice overview about how Mimic Analytics works and kind of the context of you being hired as an intern, and really sets the stage in a nice way. And then each week you're going to get a video like this that really sets the scenario for that week. And that is the boss just telling you what the problem is and why the previous week's work really set us up well to do the next stage of problems. And so very friendly and I think accessible to the students. It's not just a long, dense white paper or anything along those lines. The students are given objectives. They are told, in this case, we're looking at round one with the data integration, the data transformation. And we're saying, hey, we're going to give you these data sets, the web data, sales data, and search ad campaign data. And your job is going to be to clean that data. They'll actually kind of walk you through the process and kind of tell the students what to do. You can see here that then we go into the actual work that's involved in A/B testing. We're calling them trials. And so with A/B testing, you're not just doing one A/B test. You're doing multiple trials within a single round. So for example, in round 6, you're going to go through 10 different trials, and that gives you a chance to try different things, and you can build on the success. You're going to get analytics back based on those tests. You get to choose your A test versus your B test. You're looking at a backpack here. Bowie is a backpack company, and so just as a real concrete example, you can change this backpack to a different color. You can add elements to it. You can add copy to it. You can add images, change fonts, change positioning of things. There's really a ton of options of how you might test this. Then you would click on the Test B tab, and you would set up a different test. And you can teach it and ask the students to consider good practice, which is to kind of isolate the effects, to test differences that we know for sure we can attribute it to that one thing. Or you can just let the students kind of go, especially in the first round of A/B testing. You can just let them try things, but they will find out what worked and what didn't, and be able to then do a second trial and a third trial and try things. And so the idea is that they're actually running this. So, for example, this may be mimicking the experience of running an A/B test using Facebook ads or some platform that's similar that they can do a trial of one thing versus another and see how it works out. This is showing you how they might allocate budget with the dollars. It's obviously simulated dollars, and they are given $5,000 in this round, and they get to choose how much they want to apply to each of the rounds. Actually, I think maybe this round was $10,000. Yeah, that's it, $10,000. And then they just use these tools to allocate to different elements. This one is based on the advanced data integration rounds. So kind of based on the analysis that you've done, do you think that it's going to be worth more to allocate money to back to school Mindy, up and comer Raj, etc., based on the analysis that you've done, and the option to kind of target these segments based on how that data has turned out. This is just an example. It's going to be different in every round. Every time you're focusing on a new thing, it's going to the budget decision looks different. It's going to give them a score in the end. So it's going to tell them how they did on each of the elements that they've been given. This one here is an example of the round 1 score. This particular person seemed to do really well on the data transformation files, but not as well, I guess, on the questions and the budget allocation, probably. Yeah, they've uploaded at this point. They've uploaded that landing page conversion file. They've uploaded the February sales file, etc., and it's actually telling them what their score is. And if you click on things, you can see exactly where you missed things. We also have student tutorials. So this has also been a huge help. I'm at a university where I don't have access to TAs for my classes. And so I have a digital TA in a sense here, helping the students understand how to do these things. And so these videos are helping with that. I will say also that the textbook itself, so both marketing analytics and business analytics, cover the basics that one would need in order to understand what outliers are and all the other things that may be related to these tasks. Full chapter on A/B testing. The two books are different in all other ways. So marketing analytics and business analytics are completely different textbooks, except for some of the key elements that are important to both of the fields, especially those elements that are critical for successfully doing a simulation in Mimic Analytics. And so, the order of things is we've designed it so that it works really well. We kind of have a sample syllabus that integrates Mimic Analytics with the textbook also. And so, sometimes you need some just quick help. And so inside the tutorial itself, inside the simulation itself, there's also some tutorials that help students along, remind them what they've learned in the textbook and reinforce that. There's instructor resources. We have an instructor guide, an answer key, objectives, trying to understand the objectives, questions, and budget allocations that the students are going through, some tutorial videos, and some tips. We also have the blog. And I also just wanted to remind you guys that tomorrow, as a part of ProfCon 2020, we are going to actually play through the brand new A/B testing rounds. So if you are interested in just actually trying it yourself, I know that watching me today kind of gives you a nice mental picture of what it is, but there's nothing like learn by doing. So, and that's the whole kind of philosophy behind what we've created anyways. So if you want to come tomorrow at 12 Mountain Time or 1:30 Mountain Time during ProfCon, we're going to just have some fun with these, and there's going to be prizes. We're going to act as if we're the students. This really, there's nothing better than this to get your mind in the middle of what this simulation does. You kind of have a good overview of it now, but I really just invite you to try it out this way. If you want to just get some access to Mimic Analytics, you can, I have a link up here on the screen, which you're not going to be able to click, but I believe that Adam is going to write something in the chat to really help you to know where to go to get access to Mimic Analytics if you're interested in the simulation for your class. He can also help you if you're interested in marketing analytics or business analytics. And that is the end of my formal presentation for today, but I wanted to make sure that I left plenty of time for questions and answers from you guys because my mind's been in the middle of this for a very long time now, and I probably am forgetting what I'm forgetting to say to you guys. So please feel free to ask questions by typing them into the chat, and then one of us will read those important questions, and I will be happy to answer those. Cam?
Awesome. Thank you, Brennan.
You're welcome.
Awesome insights on providing hands-on experience with simulations. So while you guys send in questions in the chat, I'll announce the giveaway winner. So Barbara is the winner of the $5 Starbucks gift card. One of our team members will send you the gift card here soon.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Also, if you want to learn more about Mimic Analytics, you can visit the Expo tab and click on the Analytics courseware booth, and you'll visit with Bryce Johnson. He's one of our course consultants. All right, so let's get started with the Q&A. Our first question comes from Barbara. She wants to know, are the data transformation rounds done in Excel or another program?
They're given to the students as comma-separated value files, which are, the kind of files that you typically bring into Excel. And I will tell you that I actually tried it 2 different ways. So you can bring it into Excel, and there are definitely some helps to, to teach students the Excel functions. And I really recommend that students, even in a class that is more focused on programming tools like R and Python, I recommend that students get some experience with Excel. However, I had another class that really focused more on using R to clean the data. So it can be done either way. In Excel, you can use tools like VLOOKUP and some outlier tools that allow you to kind of use the innate Excel functionality to clean that data. And that's great. It works fine with that. But I also had this other class that was more interested in R, and they read those CSV files into R, and they used R functions to do the same kinds of cleaning tasks, and then exported that as a CSV file to upload back into the system. So it's really up to you how you would like to do that. And it would work the same with Python, of course.
Awesome. All right. So our next question is, will there be tutorials for R in the simulation in the future?
Yes. So most of those resources are going into the marketing analytics and business analytics textbook. We actually have some tools that help that are actually activities. So they're like a short video on a particular function in R that that teaches the student how to use that function, and then an activity that the student has to do on their own, and then a video that shows them how they should have done that, and then another activity that they have to do on their own. And it kind of takes them through that process and kind of holds their hand to learn those things. But so that those would be inside the textbook. But also, in addition to that, we're planning on putting some just quick how-to videos inside the simulation as well that are supplements in the same way that the Excel videos are supplements. And the same thing for Python. We're in the works of putting something for Python in there also.
Great.
As you guys can imagine, it's a lot of work to be agnostic to tool and to kind of add all these things in. Yeah, but we're making a lot of progress. I'm learning to teach. It's kind of cool. I'm learning to teach my classes. One quarter we're focused on Excel, one in R, one in Python, and so it's stretching me. I'm learning new things. I came into this as an R guy, and have picked up Python since, and so I'm learning and as I'm building as well.
Very cool. All right. Frank would like to know if this simulation can be part of a market research course.
Yeah, I don't see why not. You could certainly use it in a marketing research course. It's just a matter of whether the topics, I mean, it's kind of like that slide that I went to at the very beginning, kind of discussing I'm trying to get to it now. This little one here, kind of discussing how you're doing your course. But I mean, the name of your course kind of matters less than the content of your course in terms of how to answer that question. If you have a marketing research course that fits this grid, where your marketing research course is focused on data analytics as defined by the marketplace in terms of those needs, and I would say you're teaching marketing research as a marketing analytics class. But in any case, the simulation would fit well with those topics, and I don't see any reason why you couldn't do that. And you could also use the textbook materials for a marketing research class if you just defined it as being kind of marketing research oriented to analytics, maybe in your syllabus or something along those lines.
Great. All right. Will the simulation work with JMP or SAS and Tableau for additional analytics and visualization?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I've thought about a lot about this. On the one hand, it could work with any of those things in terms of being agnostic. As long as you get the answers right, then your students will be fine in the simulation to use SPSS or JUMP or any of those other Stata, any of those other tools that you would like to teach. The main thing is that the student tutorials are going to be focused on Excel, R, and Python, just because there has to be a limit to what we're supporting in terms of tools. But you could certainly provide your own personal tutorials to help students solve these problems, and you could even use Excel with your other tools. That would be a good combination. If you decided to use, say, SPSS, you might use Excel for the data transformation and use SPSS for some of the other things, analyzing A/B tests or analyzing cluster analysis or something along those lines. That would work really well. And I think the other thing you mentioned was Tableau, and even going beyond some of the analyses for the other tools you mentioned. I would say that you're basically identifying some needs that are higher up the maturity stages for analytics in general. So the storytelling and visualization in general, um, it's really important, and I think Tableau is really important for that. Um, but sorry, I didn't mean to move that. It's the benefits of putting a simulation together are, number one, that you are able to do things that are difficult to do otherwise, and number two, you are doing things that are hard to grade. And so visualization in general and Tableau kind of don't fit those two criteria super well. In other words, we can give students access to doing visualization pretty easily through tools like Tableau and even Excel. So we didn't feel like we needed to bring that into the simulation as a priority, at least in this first release. And then number two, visualization is more subjective and is a little tougher at this stage, at least in the advancement of artificial intelligence, for us to auto grade. And so at this point, I think it would be a nice supplement to this. So we have a number of recommended exercises inside the marketing analytics and business analytics textbooks in the chapter on visualization. And so I think it would work super well to use mimic analytics for data wrangling, descriptive analytics, and predictive analytics. Try some prescriptive analytics in Excel or R with optimization, and then move on to using a tool like Tableau or even Excel for visualization. And so I think that, yeah, I hope that answers your question.
All right, I think we have time for another question or so. Is there an instructor view that has more information about where a student went?
Good question. Gosh, I should have put that up there, but yes, there is an instructor view. It shows you how, and I apologize that I don't have a slide on this. So yeah, it just shows you every student in your class, how they've scored in every round, and gives you some more details and allows you to kind of see what that student did wrong. And so super helpful for grading it and ranking it. I just take those scores, and the way I grade, and this is going to be different than everyone else, but I bucket the students, I rank them and put them into logical buckets of getting an A, B, or C on the simulation, and just kind of incentivize them to do better than their classmates. So that you could set this up as any way you wanted to.
Great. The same person wanted to know, when a student asks for more details on improvement, how do you answer that?
It's really easy. I mean, what I usually do is ask them, nowadays in a Zoom session, to pull up their mimic analytics results for a particular round, and we take a look at the areas where they got things wrong. And so you can actually see like the percentage for a particular file of things that they got wrong in that file, and then you can go and identify in the file, why they got that wrong. And usually it's just like, okay, you just didn't know what an outlier was. You kind of just guessed what an outlier was. You didn't use the actual formulas that we recommend, or you just maybe missed something that you should have been looking for. Maybe I don't know, the age was actually written out in letters instead of numbers, something along those lines. I found it pretty easy to show students what they did wrong.
Awesome. Thank you, Brennan.
You're welcome.
That wraps up the Q&A session. So I think you have about a 15-minute break between the next session. Thank you, Brennan.
You're welcome. It was great being here with you guys. Have a good day. See you the rest of ProfCon. Don't forget about that simulation test tomorrow. I'll put that up as my last slide so you guys remember the contest. Bye. Cam, should I stop the broadcast now, or I can't hear you?
I stopped it. It just has a bit of a lag.
Okay. So am I just saying goodbye to you now?
Yes.
Good job.
You too.